Hello everyone. I hope you guys are doing good. So today onwards we are going to start looking into the object oriented ABAP concepts. Having said that, object oriented ABAP is what we are going to look into. Not the object oriented concepts, not the OOPS programming. It's basically the concepts which are specific to ABAP. So I'm sure many of you who are watching my videos would have either explored the object oriented concepts on your own, or you have already been through the concepts either through Java or C Sharp or C++ or whatever XYZ language, because normally in Java and all you guys mostly work into object oriented way. It's all about classes, methods and all. But when we talk about ABAP, so ABAP is a hybrid language. ABAP is not like Java. It's a hybrid language. We can do some procedural programming, which we did till date, which means all my previous videos you can consider it as a part of the procedural programming. And procedural programming is very easy. It's basically that what you are going to do. You achieve your task by dividing the whole process into certain steps. For example, what you generally do, let's say you declare the data, fetch the data, okay, then merge the data, display data, like this. So we achieve this whole task by dividing it into different sections, and then we do the coding accordingly in different sections, in different includes, be it top include and different subroutines performs. This is what we have been doing till now, and I mean that looks very easy, that sounds very easy, but when we talk about the future, so the future is all about reusability. We define a method, and then that method we know that okay, this method can be used in any other process or program or report, okay, or any other module or any other transaction. But if you think in terms of procedural programming, then it's all about, so there are two ways basically. You can copy whatever you have declared, okay, you can copy it and then paste it into, let's say you want to reuse these three things, you can copy it and paste the whole code into a different program or whatever task you want to achieve. Now it may or may not be used as it is, so you might get into the code and you might want to modify a few things, but then the reusability factor is not at all there, because if you are copying, okay, and then you are actually modifying the contents, then there is no use at all. So why we talk about object oriented concepts is, let's think in a very generalized way. Let's talk about a way of writing the code, and in which it should be very generic, and it will be very similar to our subroutines or let's say function modules, but it again at the same time it should be very generic. It should consume less memory, okay, and then it can be called anywhere. Having said that, any transaction or any report, and it should be future ready. So when I am saying future ready, that means lot of things nowadays are moving into cloud or web. It could be Webdin Pro applications, it could be HANA, SAP, HANA, if you see the Eclipse development and all, so, or for that matter other products like SRM, CRM, so these kind of products. So these products keeping the future, what happens normally in these products, lot of time this portal and all is integrated, and a lot of portal design is basically inspired through the object oriented concepts. Let's say you are working in an environment where a Java based portal is there, okay, so if you want to communicate through a Java based portal and you are working in object let's say procedural programming way, then you cannot really communicate with a Java based portal. That is just one example. Second, I I think I repeated this many times. Future ready. So future ready is something which can be expanded as and when needed. So when we talk about expansion, my objects, my developments, okay, for that matter my subroutine or function module should be capable enough to be expanded. But then people who already know the concepts of object oriented and have been through my videos would understand it much better that the procedural programming is not at all future ready. But at the same time it's not obsoleted, no need to worry, it's going to be there. The core ABAP ECC module is going to be there, but all the add-ons are inspired through the object oriented concept. When I'm saying future ready, which means it should be able to communicate to any kind of any different let's say environment. It could be a portal, or it could be an app, let's say some SAP UI5 kind of app, whatever it is. It could be an ABAP HANA based solution, it could be an SRM based solution. So what exactly we are going to do, or we are trying to know, we will be trying to achieve in next couple of videos. And initial few videos are going to be more theoretical, but then let's try to simulate the same with examples as well. So it's all about being future ready, being very open-ended, being very flexible. And then when you think of procedural programming, it's not at all flexible. Every time you want to reuse something, either you need to copy paste, or you can create a function module and then probably try to call that function module everywhere. But then function module, when we say, it's more like an ABAP based terminology, while other languages are now focusing on object oriented. So SAP also in that way became flexible after version 3.1 I believe, and slowly they started introducing the object oriented concept. So going forward, let's try to forget this procedural programming. Okay, forget in the sense, don't forget the concepts. Let's try to adopt a different way of writing the code. Okay, so it doesn't mean that whatever video you have seen till now, just remove it from your memory, not like that. So when we talk about an object oriented way of writing the code, somewhere it has to be simulated, or I would say it has to be inspired with the real time things. Real world, when we say real world, is like, it's basically your surrounding. It you are a part of that real world, your laptop or desktop which you are using currently, your internet connection, and then a lot of things. So everything is a part of the real world. Okay, so this object oriented programming is very much based on the concepts of real world, and we are going to think in a different way going forward. Okay, and let's try to, today onwards, when we are actually doing any code, and of course after few videos you will be able to write the object oriented code using classes and methods. So whenever you write a code, just try to think that, okay, this code, whether this code is really going to add any value. Okay, whether this code is really reusable, whether this code is really flexible, whether this code is really generic. Okay, so let's try to think in in a different way. So when we talk about object oriented concept, we have to talk about class, and we have to talk about methods. Okay, so before that, what is an object? So let's talk about an object first. So object, as I said, it could be anything. It could be an entity, something which you can just pick up or just kick out, whatever you are imagining, and it has its own identity. Let's talk about a living object or a non-living object maybe. Okay, it could be your car, it could be a house, your table, okay, your chair, it could be your pet animal. So it could be anything. So a real world object will have two different characteristics. It will have something called an attribute, and it will have something called behavior. Okay, so two different characteristics of object. So I hope what I'm trying to say here, you guys are getting it. So as I said, object would be some abstraction, or some kind of abstraction of the real world. Okay, and we will be talking about class and methods. So class, when I talk about class, just think about your function group concept. Okay, so I have a function group, and when we say see methods, just think about your function modules. Okay, so you have a function group. In that function group you have many function modules. Okay, so let's get into SAP. So we have this function module ssf underscore function underscore module underscore name. So this is the function group stxbe. stxbe is a function group under which we have different function module, and each function module is going to have its own characteristics, which means every function module can have different importing and exporting parameters, tables. Okay, and every function module is intended to perform a particular task, but at the same time all of them belong to one function group, which is the top level unit or entity. So I have one function group, and then I have different function modules. In the same way, just correlate the function group with the class, and then the function module with the methods of the class. So the T code for creation of class and different objects is basically the common one is SE24. So SE24 is the T code where we will be creating our classes, interfaces, and different things, and we'll be discussing everything one by one. So let's try to pull one class. So when you see CL, okay, so CL is an object, but basically CL is a class. So CL will represent class. If you see IF, then it will represent interface, and blah blah blah, we'll see. So let's pull one class, CL GUI ALB grid, CL GUI ALB grid now, and I'm going inside. So when I see these two screens, so basically what I try to understand is STXBE is nothing but this CLGY ALV grid, and these function modules are nothing but these methods. Okay, different methods. This is just the beginning, so try to understand in this way. So we have different function modules as a part of one function group. For now, let's just be here itself. Let's not go very far for now. So I hope you guys are able to correlate what I'm trying to explain here. So we have different methods, then class and object. Okay. So now let's say, okay, let's go with the very common analogy here. So the common analogy would be, we have something called car. Okay, so car is a class, and then we have, let's say, Audi, Mercedes, okay, and Volkswagen. So these are different car makes, okay, models. So these are different cars available in the market. So basically, when I try to correlate it with the class car, so we will say that so these are the objects, okay, which belong to the class car. So there is a class car, and then we have different objects belonging to that class. Something like, we have a class, in that class we have so many students. Just try to correlate in that way, or yeah, I mean that example is more than enough. So we have something called as a class, and then we have different objects as a part of that class. So if you think about okay, let's slowly move into it. So now when we talk about an object, let's say we talk about one object called Audi. So what this Audi will do, okay, this Audi will, so let's say what this Audi is going to do. This Audi is going to get fuel, okay, it's going to get some fuel, and then it's going to refuel as and when needed. It's going to drive, okay. So these are few of the things which this Audi is going to do. So what we can say here, that under the class car we have an object Audi which performs these methods: get fuel, refuel, drive, okay. So these are the methods which belong to the object Audi. Now these methods can also be instantiated to different objects or different classes. What I'm trying to say here is, get fuel, so it's not just Audi, it will be any object here will be getting the fuel. Any object here is going to refuel or drive. So that way the same method can be called or reused for a different object. It could be for Mercedes, it could be for Volkswagen. Every other object is going to get some fuel, going to get refueled, and then going to be driven by a driver, or I mean like that, okay. So this is something we call as reusability. So let's move slowly, okay. So going forward, when you see anything, any class or method, just try to correlate with these basic building blocks. Okay, what is a class? Okay, which class it belongs to? Okay, which object is this? Okay, and then what all method it contains. So classes and objects would be the basic building block of your object oriented programming. So just understand it like when there is a real world entity and that we are trying to model into object oriented programming, then it will be known as class. Its characteristics, okay, so what all characteristics we have? So the characteristics, okay, so till now we only spoke about method. So this is method, okay. What is the characteristic of this object OD? So the characteristic would be, okay, maximum speed, okay. What is the maximum speed this object can give? Okay, how much fuel this object can consume, something like this. So we have, for OD we have these methods, and then we have this attributes. So every object is going to have some attributes, okay, which is nothing but the properties of that object, okay. And then we are going to have some methods which that object will be using, so kind of some actions that object is going to perform, some functionality of that object. So just think about the properties, characteristics, so that will be called attributes, okay. So characteristic is attribute, and then functionality will be the method. So what is an object? What is an object? This is an object, okay. So OD is an object. These all are different objects, okay. So what is an object? When you talk about object, so it's basically nothing but the instance of a class. So we have something called car, and then OD is an instance of that car, okay. So I mean that is one way of thinking about it, and then just think in a different way. So we have an organization, let's say IBM, okay, and then we have different units within that organization, okay. So let's say SAP, then Oracle, okay, and then every unit will have certain functionalities, okay, implementation, support, upgrade, rollout, okay. So different sections are there, okay. So these are the attributes of those units, these are functionalities of those units, and then attributes, okay. What could be the attribute of those units? It could be like post go live support, end-to-end implementation, something like that. So just try to think in those lines. So the basic building block of object-oriented programming would be using the objects. Those objects will be having some data and some methods, okay. Data is basically something which is coming in and then going out. So it will have some data, then it will have some methods, it will have certain attributes, okay. So what is the benefits we are going to get out of it? So benefit would be we can maintain it easily, and then to realize this benefit, it's going to take a lot of time, okay. Because when we see object oriented concept initially, and people who don't have any knowledge on the object oriented earlier, it will be a little difficult, but then it's okay. So maintainability is one, because we have different things which are part of different objects, okay. Different operations are taken care separately. Everything is not merged in just one, let's say, big or complex report program. So one final object is consisting multiple objects, and those multiple objects are lying at different places, and those different places are in fall under control of different people, and they can easily maintain it, something like that, okay. So maintainability is one, and then when you are actually maintaining it, you are actually maintaining just a very small piece of the whole no big output, a very small piece of that. And then simplicity. Okay, so let's try to realize it. Initially it won't be simple, but then obviously its simplicity is also. And we talk about purified kind of a ABAP, so it's very neat and clean. Not everything is not happening within the same thing. Okay, so things are kept, different building blocks, basically things are kept separately, so we have different building blocks, and then finally it will result into one final product. And future orientation, as I was explaining, that it will be easy to communicate with different things by using the objects and methods. So if your code can call a method within a ABAP, okay, then at the same time your code will also be able to call a method from, let's say, Java or any non-SAP environment, provided there is a connectivity and the environment is there. But it can, but then to make that arrangement, you have to start writing a code using the object oriented approach. So why we are going to why we are preparing this video? Because we want to take advantage of the object oriented features. We want to use methods as far as possible, even though you are writing the simple report code using the procedural programming. But still, instead of creating subroutines, try to create a local class and then try to call the method of it. And then we will be doing it maybe this video or in the next one. So stop using subroutines. Okay, so no subroutines anymore. Whatever I have discussed earlier should be now a part of your knowledge, so that when you see the subroutine, you don't feel like anything surprised, but then you should be able to maintain it. But then when you create anything from scratch, then use local classes, or local classes for now, let's say. And use function modules only when it's technically necessary. For example, let's say remote enabled function module and all. Otherwise, whatever remains within your ECC or any other system, and it's not across two different systems, try to use the object oriented concept, which means classes, objects, methods. Okay, so whatever we have discussed till now will be called classical ABAP, and then what we are going to do now will be called object oriented ABAP. So we have different features of object oriented ABAP. So one second. Feature would be instantiation, then we have interfaces, then we have inheritance, encapsulation is also there, where basically you try to hide the data. Okay, so encapsulation, and then we have events. Okay, so these are some of the principal features or the main features. So okay, so we have this class CL-ABAP structure description. Okay, and then we have different methods under it. So what all things a class actually contains? So there would be some attribute. Okay, so if you remember the attribute, these attributes. Okay, so these attributes are basically the characteristics. So this is characteristic, this is functionality. Okay, so just think of this class. Okay, in this class we have these attributes or characteristics. So these are the characteristics of that class. Okay, so it can be like some data declaration, it could be a constant. Okay, here we are seeing a lot of things as constant. So it could be an instance of, so instance is okay. So constants, instances, okay, some kind of data declaration. Okay, and then we will be having methods as I explained earlier. So method is like a particular piece of code, a block of code, which provides a specific functionality for that class. So let's say there is a class which does 100 of things, but then out of those 100 things, let's say 1 or 2 things will be performed by one particular method. So basically that is the method. And then we'll be having events. So you can see different events here. Okay, so event will be some kind of mechanism within a class which can help this class to trigger the method from a different class. Okay, so basically when this event is called, just call the method some other class, just try to call the method of that class. Okay, so that is there. And then we'll be having interfaces. So interfaces will be like independent structures that you can implement in a class to extend the scope of that class. So when we talk about interfaces, so we also think of different methods available. Okay, and then whenever we implement that method, it will behave differently. So that is basically the concept of BADI, and that's why I have kept BADI pending till now. So we'll see. Okay, this particular class is a protected class. Okay, so we have different things: public, private, protected. So we'll be talking about it one by one. Friend class, okay, we'll see if we can talk about it. So so whatever you are seeing on SE24, okay, whatever we saw just now, it will be called a global class. Okay, so a global class is basically stored in the object repository. This object repository is very similar to our business object repository where we were storing the business objects. If you remember, SWO1. So SWO1 is basically business object repository. Okay, business object builder. Okay, here also we talk about objects, but business objects, business specific objects. Here we talk about any kind of object. Okay, so not necessarily it should serve a business purpose, it could be a technical purpose itself. Okay, so it will be stored in the object repository. And then if you want to create a custom object, let's say custom class, then it should be either GCL or YCL like this. And the moment you write GCL or YCL, system will understand that you are going to create a class. So this is the customer namespace that is allowed. And also, like we had earlier, we have the where use list concept. So where exactly this class is used. So you can click the cursor here, come here, okay, hit OK. So it will try to find out the classes or the programs where this object is used. Okay, so now you can see that we have different programs, and then we might have some classes also, we never know. Okay, so we have different classes and interfaces. So where this object is called, so we have the where use list also available for the objects. Okay, so this is basically your global class or global interface, so that will be created on SE24, and the same thing we can create within our code also, and we will call it as local class. So it's like a local variable and a global variable. So a global variable, if you remember, within our top include, if something is there, let's talk about a function module. So here also we have includes, and then we have a top include here. So whatever variable is declared within this top include can be accessed across all the function modules. Okay, in the same way, yeah, so this is going to be a global class that can be called anywhere. Okay, provided it's available. Okay, and then we'll be having local classes that we will be creating within our code itself. So how much time? Yeah, so it's almost 36 minutes. So initial, as I said, initial few sessions will be little theoretical. So it's 12 o'clock, it's almost midnight here, so I'll stop it here itself for today, and then we'll continue tomorrow again. We'll try to create a local class within our code and try to see the benefits offered by the local class over subroutine, and then we'll be creating a global class and try to achieve a few simple functionalities, and we'll call the same in our code. So thank you guys for being with me, and then if you liked this video, don't forget to hit the like button, and catch you again tomorrow. Thank you.